Good morning. It's Tuesday, February 17th. Chinese New Year. 2026 is the year of the fire horse, because not only are there 12 animals that the years can be associated with, I was the year of the rat, thanks for asking by the way, but there are also 5 elemental signs: wood, earth, water, metal, and fire. A fire horse year is rare, occurring every 60 years, and it symbolizes rapid change, intense passion, and unpredictable high-energy events. Super cool. Super cool. If you're doing the math, the last fire horse year was 1966. Well, and now the news. We start how we start here in America, with 2 people dead and 3 others injured after a shooter, who is also dead, opened fire at an ice rink where a high school hockey game was taking place. None of the players were shot. It appears this was a targeted incident, perhaps a family dispute, but it is still being investigated. It was breaking news as I started to record this episode. I had to take last week off suddenly because of germs. Have you heard of germs? So to misquote the scholar Kelly Clarkson, since I've been gone, here are a few things that happened. We're in another government shutdown. What a silly government that we have here. As you may recall, the government is mostly funded. Mostly. We were previously on a partial shutdown because a few spending bills needed to be voted on, and the Republicans wanted everything to be voted on in whole, including DHS spending. Democrats wanted to make that a separate conversation because of the whole Republicans seem very cool with ICE agents shooting people dead in cold blood in the middle of the streets and then lying about it thing. Ultimately, that did get signed off on, and it was decided that the spending bills would be voted on separately, with that vote on DHS taking place, now. Which meant that the partial government shutdown that we saw 2 weeks ago was only because they decided too late to parse out those votes. Well, that and because Speaker Johnson was like, we are going to reopen the government as soon as possible. Don't you worry, my babies. And then for some reason, it was not the first vote up that week. He was like, and we're gonna do it on Tuesday. I'm too busy on Monday to make this the first vote up. I don't know. I mentioned that element of it, the Speaker Johnson element of it, because the government is once again in a partial government shutdown. This time it's for a good reason, though. The Democrats, not to brag, do not stand on business as much as I believe they should. But currently they are. They are standing on the right side of history. The government is in this partial shutdown because they don't want to just give in to the Republican funding of DHS. They have demands on the way that they should restructure DHS and specifically ICE spending. Among the demands on the Democratic side, they want ICE agents to be big and brave and remove their masks and display their ID numbers. If you're so proud of what you're doing, do it. Take off your mask. Come on, big boy. Take your mask off. Say it with your chest. You signed up for this job, say it with your chest. They also want them to wear body cameras and comply with judicial warrants for arrests on private property. Literally not insane asks. I don't think they're actually going far enough. The Republicans are forcing a partial shutdown because they're big mad that ICE agents might have to comply with the Constitution. Judicial warrants are a part of the Constitution. As far as masks go, Border Czar Tom Homan, that's how you pronounce that word, Czar. Border Czar Tom Homan says, quote, I don't like the masks either, adding, quote, these men and women have to protect themselves, end quote. From whom, Tommy? They are the ones doing murder in the streets. From whom? Now you may notice today is Tuesday. Such a weird way to go to this next part of the story. Hey, not sure if you were aware, it's Tuesday. Good thing I'm back to tell you these things. Anyway, yesterday was a holiday, and so the House and Senate, they're out all week. The whole thing. That's why I mentioned the thing about Speaker Johnson not being in a rush to open the government last time it was closed. He is so lazy. Because don't forget, a few months ago, so last time, 2 weeks ago, he was like, we're going to open the government, tomorrow. But then last time, a few months ago, when we were in a full shutdown, the longest one in history, the House stayed closed completely. Didn't need to. Could have been open, because Speaker Johnson kept it closed that time too. Granted, it wouldn't have necessarily reopened the government, but still, he kept it closed. He kept the house closed. Although that time he did it, because if he had reopened the house, he would have had to have sworn in newest House Rep Grijalva. And knowing that when he did that, she would be the final signature needed to move the Epstein files forward. So in this case, Speaker Johnson did it to protect a dead child rapist and everyone connected to those crimes, including the president. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that next. But isn't it wild that the government is in the middle of a partial shutdown and both the House and the Senate are like, week-long vacation. No, thank you. I'm at work today. I don't know about you, but kind of cool that they're just like, we are not interested in opening the government this week. We are on a vacation instead. Neat government. Certainly no changes needed. As I mentioned, I'm not going to harp on it too much, but just going back to the fact that I got hit so hard by a cold last week that I genuinely could not record the news, and I bring it up only one more time because at no point was it a bigger, more significant bummer than when Pam Bondi took the seat for her House Judiciary Committee testimony. There's a link in show notes. Click at your own risk because just seeing the picture of her smug face, knowing how she acted in the hearing is like flames on the side of my face. She was brought in to talk about the extreme mishandling of the Epstein files. As a reminder, it is not a suggestion, would be cool, neat vibes if to hand over these files. It is quite literally the law. But she has decided, for whatever reason, to live her life as a person who wants to protect the people who committed the horrific crimes in the Epstein files. That's a choice that she made. So she was brought to the House Judiciary Committee last week. Other choices that she made include opening her mouth any chance she got and responded the way she did last week. And it was bad, but made for excellent, bad television, I guess. For example, House Representative Jayapal asked her to apologize to the survivors for the DOJ's, quote, absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information, end quote. To which she said, quote, I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics, end quote. Adding, if I want to be in a gutter, I would have accepted Kristi Noem's dinner invitations. That's a throwback to last week's joke when I said that Kristi Noem lives in a gutter. I'm not going to be nice to these people, you know? Representative Massey was one of the only Republicans to talk about the Epstein files because never underestimate the chickenness of the Republicans. He called out the Department of Justice for over-redacting the criminals while failing to redact the many victims in the files, just giving out their information, potentially putting them in further harm's way. Bondi was like, question heard, and have you considered that you're a failed politician with Trump derangement syndrome? I'm an adult. She asked if he demanded the same transparency from Merrick Garland during Biden's administration, to which he responded, quote, this cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it, end quote, which I think is a great response. This cover-up does span decades. He's not saying, like, it's fine that everyone else did it. He's saying, hey, you did this part of it. No one else, you're on trial right now. Other people can be on trial later, you dunce. She unraveled so hard. It was a delight. It was a delight to watch. At one point, she was just shouting, quote, have you apologized to President Trump? Have you apologized to President Trump? All of you, end quote. She was shouting it. Baby, what? Then she started talking about the Dow for some reason, and it was out of nowhere. So Jamie Raskin started laughing. Why wouldn't you? And then she just became the person, again, shouting, quote, I don't know why you're laughing. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P is at almost 7,000 and the NASDAQ smashing records. That's what we should be talking about, end quote. Okay, but you are involved in the cover-up of the rape and murder of girls, children. You'd have to be a monster to actually be like, well, at least we're all making money. Though I guess that's probably what the vibes on the island were, so, you know. Then, of course, came this big moment when Bondi, who knows what's in these files, said this, quote, there is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime, end quote. She continued on, quote, everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He is the one who asked that those files, but she was then cut off because, Ted Lieu stopped her, House Representative Ted Lieu, saying, quote, "I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center because I believe that you just lied under oath," end quote. She responded super normal to that, yelling, always with the yelling, by the way, "My dude, there's a microphone. You're unhinged already. The words you're using are unhinged. You sound worse when you yell." But he calmly, because Ted Lieu knows that you look cooler when you're calm, said, quote, "I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape," end quote. And before I go on, what I'm going to repeat right now is graphic, but I don't want to skip it because this is what the president is being accused of, and it is horrific. He is a horrific, horrible person in general. I'm not even talking about the politics that I also find horrific. I'm talking about the words that we have all heard him use. The way that he disregards everyone other than himself. He literally, just like a week ago, refused to apologize for posting a video that featured a clip of the Obamas as apes. He is a white supremacist. But I think it's fair to warn you that what he's being accused of here is graphic. It's exactly what you think it is, and also actually worse. So if you want to skip ahead 30 seconds just to protect your, your head, your corazon, then have at it. But as Bondi mumbled something unintelligible and presumably unintelligent into the microphone, Lieu continued, quote, "I'm showing you here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry that he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness," end quote. No one interviewed this witness. There is a special place in hell for Epstein and everyone else who committed these crimes. But having full, unredacted access and continuing to not investigate any of it when that is your job, when you can, may she and all the rest of them live a long, restless, sleepless life where peace continues to evade her at every single turn before she also finds her own special little place. Speaking of the files, Congress members are now able to see the unredacted files for themselves by making an appointment. They cannot take any recording devices, including their cell phones, into the DOJ reading room, but they can take notes, handwritten notes. However, many Congress members are noting that they are being given unique logins that they don't even know, and it appears that the Department of Justice is spying on them, keeping a record of what they're looking at as they read through the files. So that's creepy, and, to top it off, illegal. Speaking of creepy and illegal, the search continues for Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's 84-year-old mother, who was kidnapped on February 1st in Tucson, Arizona. In the latest piece of information, it sounds like the clothing that the suspect was wearing at the time of the kidnapping was bought from Walmart. I'm not a CSI, so I'm not sure what that really does for this investigation, but it does further prove a hypothesis of my own, which is that nothing good happens at Walmart. A glove found about 2 miles from her house appears to match the type of glove worn by the man seen in the security footage. It has been sent off for DNA testing. DNA was found inside of the glove. I'm telling you, someone better return that lady today, or I'm about to go find her myself. And ending with some very sad news, not that the rest of the episode has been an up, but you know what I mean. While we still mourn the death of Catherine O'Hara, last Wednesday, Dawson's Creek's James Vanderbeek died at age 48 after being diagnosed with colorectal cancer in November of 2024. And on Monday, Robert Duvall died at age 95. Many of you know that this podcast only exists because my best friend Zaz asked me to tell her the news. These episodes are for her. You could just listen if you want, I guess. So we actually did a Dawson's Creek rewatch podcast a few years ago called Dawson's Darlings because she had never seen the show and it was vital to me in junior high. She had never seen it, and I had seen it multiple times before we even did the podcast. And because we're obsessed with each other, normalize being obsessed with your friends. It was only a matter of time before we did a podcast together, and that's the one that we did. Famously, in the show, they never knew what to do with Jen's character after the first season, which is insane because it's Michelle Williams. She can do anything. Which means, spoiler alert, I guess if you've never seen the show that came out in the late 90s, they killed Jennifer off in the series finale, which is an insane choice. Terrible choice. But it led to this line that at the time, I admittedly, when I first heard it, was like, you could have done better. But now, I gotta say, it hits. But this is the line. Quote, "It's interesting how people use that expression, life and death, as if to imply that life is the opposite of death. But birth is the opposite of death. Life has no opposite." End quote. Life has no opposite. And that's it. That's the news. I'm not proud of Pam Bondi. I'm so brave. I'll say it. She sucks. I'm proud of fire horses. Bring on that radical change, baby. You hear my voice? That changed. So I guess the change has started. Be the change you want to see in your voice or something like that. But more than fire horses, because you are the change of 10,000 fire horses, and I'm ready for it. I'm proud of you.